The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Thanks for hanging out. Welcome back to us. It's Monday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Radio, big recruiting weekend. Some thoughts from Tom Shatel coming up and the blowback on the term slumming. We'll get some clarification. I know what I think of what Nebraska was supposed to be and what they've been in the West, the offense many have taken around the college football world. But we'll sit down with Tom Shatel here in about 15 minutes, get his thoughts on really entertaining Sunday story from him. Sam Koch going to be with us, the all-world punter for the Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl champ, and, of course, Husker Hall of Famer. His son, Kamdyn, committing to Nebraska over the weekend, Nebraska's first specialist. So Sam will tell that story as his son is going to now be a Husker in about 30 minutes. So Sam Koch on the way. A Monday with Charlie, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, and then the Blackshirt Hour complete with Blackshirt Husker NFLer co-host Big Red Wrap-Up Jay Moore with us around 5:25. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240 to dial up. Can also send an email, chris@hailvarsity.com. Facebook and Twitter also with KFOR and KFOR Sports. Elijah, pretty entertaining weekend. A lot of baseball for me. I know some baseball for you. And we're back at it here as we get to the middle part of June. The news, though, of the day, and no announcement for Nebraska, but arguably the most dominant pitcher since Jenny Finch, Jordy Bahl, the softball ace for Oklahoma, is transferring home. Home could be Nebraska. Home could be UNO. Home could be Creighton. When we hear home from Jordy Bahl, it's the state of Nebraska, the Papio standout. We're talking back-to-back national champion. And I was reading the Oklahoman story on this, and you had Jordy put out on social media her thanks and love to her teammates in her time in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma got her, did an amazing job recruiting the national Gatorade Player of the Year. They beat out Oregon. They beat out in-state Nebraska. They beat out Florida. They beat out the who's who of the softball world. And she has been everything as advertised as far as a game changer. And this is a great opportunity, we think, for Nebraska softball to get a program changer. And if you're Oklahoma and you're just cranking out win streaks like they have been, Ball's 44-2 for the love of God, almost 400 career strikeouts. Pretty emotional meeting with her and her Sooner family, but I respect the heck out of how Oklahoma, their coaching staff, handled this and responded to it. And that can't be, think about the gravity of it, where your best player on a team full of greats, mind you, Oklahoma's that good a program, but a player of that caliber taken off for somewhere else, going home. And I don't know that I'd be so high road. I would have a knee-jerk, all-about-me tantrum is what I would have. That's why I'm probably not coaching.
Well, it's the transfer portal era, and I think you have to tip your cap to a player that really led you to 2 national championships if you're Oklahoma. I mean, look what she did on the mound this year. This is just in the Women's College World Series. We'll get to a regular season here in just a second. But almost 25 innings pitched, 12 total hits, 4 walks with 33 strikeouts. So if you're doing the math here, that is a walks and hits per innings pitched of 0.67, just under actually, which is really damn impressive. You look at her entire season, 22-1 with an ERA of 0.9, 1.3 strikeouts per innings pitched. Like, simply put, the best product the state of Nebraska has ever put out in softball. I think that's easy to say right now. And now you look at her coming home, and to read the tea leaves, she was committed to Nebraska from 8th grade up until I think her junior year of high school. Nebraska's always had a special place in her heart. You look at just the in-state programs that are softball at Nebraska, UNO, and Creighton, which you'd assume would be the three options. And Nebraska traditionally has had the most success with Rhonda Revelle, I think, leading the team to, 6 Women's College World Series appearances?
I think the last one was 2013, and my love for softball goes back to an opportunity I got where Dolman and Sharpie, this is it's about 21 years ago, where they're like, hey, do you want to go do Nebraska's postseason softball? I'm like, well, sure. Are you sure they want me? But I got to go to Iowa City with Peaches James's crew and Amber Burgess, Buckholtz, Tromboli, that squad 21 years ago, and I had a lot of fun, and they put up with my inexperience doing the regional in Iowa City, and then we did the Big 8 tournament before that, Big 12 tournament, sorry, it's getting cloudy, and then back down to Oklahoma City for the Women's College World Series. I mean, Nebraska was right there, where they lost to Florida State, and I think they lost to Cal. They went 1-2, and that was Gary Carter and Jenny Finch, and Gary Carter's daughter, and Jenny Finch. So I really smile at softball, and it's awesome. My dad grew up playing fast pitch, and that was part of my youth, but at a whole new, higher and incredible level, college softball and what the Women's College World Series is and how incredible the athletes are. You look at Bahl flipping the switch in March, going 18-0 during this win streak, a .50 ERA, and just two home runs allowed the rest of the way. That was a little bit of a snafu, was I think 6 home runs allowed this season, but just 2 when it got down to crunch time. So, and then she finished off Florida State. She finished off Texas the year before. It is program changing. We talk about that when we talk about recruiting that quarterback or getting that edge rusher or finding a group of linemen that can gel and start for about 3 years to open holes for the running game. Or you get a Ty Lue type guy, or find a Piakowski, or a group of guys like Strick and company that take a program that's, all right, are they bad? Are they okay? Are they going to be good? And then you get on that fast track to respectability because you get a difference maker of a player, and Bahl is absolutely that. If Nebraska finishes this deal, which I think we all anticipate to happen, that's incredible, and you may have a new sheriff. As good as Northwestern's been in the Big Ten, you may have a new sheriff here because Nebraska was damn good and competitive last year.
Yeah, like, good luck going up against a pitcher that's either allowing 1 or 0 runs per game. Going to go pitch a complete game for you, 1 or 0 runs. And let's not forget, she batted over 500 in high school. She hasn't got a chance to use the bat at Oklahoma. That's how good Oklahoma is. Mm-hmm. So let's not also act like part of that is going to be the reason why she's going to be leaving Oklahoma. I have a feeling she wants to use her bat just a little bit more, and I think she'd get that opportunity in the Husker lineup. Like, you talk about program changing. Yeah, this could be program changing for Husker softball. Still 2 years of eligibility remaining for Jordy. And, like, yeah, every game she pitches, you need to put up 3 runs to win. Yeah, that's program changing, especially in softball.
Let's be straight. You put up, you know, 3's comfortable, 2's doable, 1, she'll get it handled.
I mean, and, like, look at the local talent that's already on display with the Husker softball team. Like, you're another great player, but let's not forget the Squires of the world that are on that team, the local talent that's on display everywhere. Like, it's going to be a team that represents the state of Nebraska, assuming, and I don't want to rush to assumptions here, but it's where my mind goes, a team that is going to represent the state of Nebraska in the right way and be someone who could really be someone that contends not just in the Big Ten, but on a national scale. That's how big this could be.
Well, Nebraska, with some of their best teams, and we say it for football, and we know it for baseball, softball the case too, where you've got regional and in-state talent leading the way there. So we'll see and keep you posted on Jordy Bahl and if Nebraska makes that announcement. But it sounds like she's ready to be a Husker in short order. And she also has a significant other at least some of the research we've done on the baseball team. So that's part of this. I want to get closer to home.
Yeah.
So
that would be, I believe it's Tyler Fromm, pitcher on the Husker baseball team. And that's kind of first place my mind went was, is this addition for softball or is this a new arm for Rob Childress to work with in the Husker bullpen? I think she could go out there and do just fine at Haymarket.
Well, there's the big wow moment today. The other topic is the word slumming. Slumming. Tom Shatel. And Tom's awesome. Love Tom. Love being able to chat with him over the years with the World Herald. And his column, as he talked with Trev, and this has to do with schedules. We'll hear from Tom Shatel. We'll talk to Tom in about 10 minutes. But the blowback was fantastic and fierce for Twitter with Nebraska and this story. And you had some national guys that we've talked to and we respect. They, I think, took exception to a line in the story, and we're going Adam Rittenberg, Scott Docterman, guys we both have talked to for years, and you had this Twitter tire fire about the term slumming. And let me lay out what I thought of the Big Ten. And this goes back years. I thought Nebraska would walk in and dominate. Even when they reconfigured the divisions, I thought Nebraska, 3 out of every 4 years, Nebraska should be winning the North. Nebraska should have more than one appearance in the Big Ten championship game. And I don't think it was an easy transition from Big 12 to Big 10 body type-wise. I think it was a tough hill to climb. And even though Bo and company knew of the Big Ten, knew about the Big Ten, you still got to go get the right dudes on the lines of scrimmage, specifically the defensive line. And I think from a context standpoint, it's okay to say slumming in this way. If you're used to playing and beating and competing for championships, you'd win your league. Your league wasn't as tough or as deep in the old Big 8. You had to beat Oklahoma or Colorado, sometimes both, maybe deal with an Oklahoma State or a Missouri. In the Big 12 North, who did you have to beat? You had to beat Kansas State and Colorado, and Missouri got hot under Pinkel for a little while. So there's 3 teams, but they're not. Missouri was ranked second in the country. But my point is this. You, in the West, never really had a serious national championship contender. Occasionally, they may sting Ohio State and a down Ohio State or a Penn State, but they weren't going to go 11-1. They never did. They never, ever. The West has never, ever done that. They've always kind of had an imaginary line. It's like the old imaginary fence where a rover can't get out. That's been the Big Ten West forever. And it's not that it's bad football. I got straightened up right away as I saw Nebraska scrape by and then fall to West foes. And it is a no BS league where game in, game out, you've got to be able to be the last man standing in a bar fight. And Nebraska's not been tough enough to do it, not been disciplined enough to do it, not been good enough to do it, not been, despite what the recruiting rankings say, not been talented enough to do it. So Nebraska's absolutely fallen on their face in the West. And part of the reason the West is poked at and made fun of or not as respected is because Nebraska's sucked.
Yeah, 2 things can be true, Schmitty. One is that the Big Ten West, as it stands right now, is the ugly duckling of the Big Ten. And you call it a slum, you call it an ugly duckling.
It'll hit you.
I mean, whatever you want to do. Like, I don't think you can deny the fact that the Big Ten hasn't lived up to expectations with what it was supposed to be whenever it was created. That can be true. You can call the Big Ten West a slum. Where these other fans are coming from, which is also very true, and by other fans, I mean from other schools in the Big Ten West, it can also be true that Nebraska is the reason why it's a bit of a slum right now, because you're expected to be the top dog in the Big Ten West. You've fallen short of expectations. I don't deny that one bit. But also, there was a whole bunch of great opportunities for schools like Wisconsin, in Iowa, in Minnesota, to step up and fill that void that was left by Nebraska, and none of them stepped up and took on that opportunity.
Be another half in a playoff contender versus going 10-2 or 10-3 and then still getting put out like a cigarette by Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. you still never listen, Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State are your 3 title contenders. One of those 3 will be in the playoff or knocking on the playoff door, but it's one of 14, right? It's not even in comparison. Look at the SEC East, which has now kind of risen up. And you saw it go in cycles where the Big 12 South was hot for a while with Oklahoma and Texas, but for a while it was just K-State and Nebraska in the north, and Texas and OU were down. So it's cyclical there, but no, Nebraska's not done their job. The Big 10 West has always just been okay, but not a serious contender. And to refer it as slumming, you haven't been able to beat these teams that you think are not as talented or as good. In the meantime, you've gone over against a lot of them. And
it's the case of it's funny for using slums as an analogy, because you're throwing stones from a glass house.
Right.
That's what it is. And
you've got broken glass.
I can see how to other fans in the Big Ten West, this article would read as somebody who lives in a crappy house in the slums acting like they're living in a mansion.
Sure. And I don't think that's what Tom was saying.
No, I don't think. We'll get some clarification from him next segment.
Yep. Tom Shatel is with us here in about 3 minutes. Sam Koch, proud papa, as his son committed to Nebraska. Husker legend and NFL Super Bowl champ Sam Koch in about 20 minutes. Tom Shatel on the way with Hail Varsity Radio.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Tom Shatel with us. Find him on Twitter at Tom Shatel, OWH. Tom, how is L.A. in November, my friend?
Well, I've been to San Diego there. It's a little cool, but it's not bad. It's better than here.
That was the talk all last week, was the schedule, and I know you had a chance to catch up with Trev Alberts. Let's talk about slumming, my friend, and there's a lot of response on social media with that, with your column. And what did you anticipate Nebraska doing? Let me start there with you. When they moved into the Big Ten West, I didn't think it'd go the way it's gone, and I know Nebraska wasn't hoping it went the way it's gone, but it's been just a struggle, and now it's going to be a whole new world in about 2 years.
Well, I really didn't know. I've grown up in the Big 8 and the Big 12, and I never respected the Big 10, to be honest. When I got in here, I had my eyes opened. The football was a lot better than I thought. Not great. When you're covering games against Oklahoma and then Colorado when they got good, and Miami and Florida State, Nebraska was at that level for so long. But the Big Ten have never had. Ohio State's been at that level. They haven't had many teams at those levels, but that doesn't mean that they're playing bad football necessarily. There's a lot of good coaches in the league, and the Big Ten West just has a ceiling. I feel like it's just like they're just so good. They're like pain in the butt good. They're hard to beat. But they don't aspire. That's what has always driven me crazy. Nebraska has been beaten down all these years, but the program, the people of the state, still aspire to be great. They still want to be the highest level, whether they can or not. They still believe, and to me, the Big Ten West, I will never say that the Big Ten West held Nebraska back, but certainly they made life hard on Nebraska, and they caused Nebraska a lot of losses. But a lot of that too was because Nebraska has not been good in a long time, and they haven't taken care of things, and they haven't. To me, the Big Ten West has served a purpose in this way. It reminded Nebraska of what's important. in football, and that's the thing Nebraska used to do. The fundamentals, offensive line and physical play, not making mistakes, execution, don't beat yourself. And it's finally they hired an athletic director who understood that. And so, we'll see if they get back on the road to that, doing that. But, Chris, the Big Ten West is, I'm of the mind that, in college sports, and maybe in sports in general, you're as good as you need to be. And when Nebraska was competing against Oklahoma and Miami and Florida State, they adjusted to beat them. The last several years, Nebraska's, of course, has not been very good, but they've had to, how do we beat Wisconsin and Iowa and all these other teams that are not at elite level, but they're good programs. But to me, I think they needed to get out of the Big Ten West, and I'm excited to see them, to see what happens if they can get back to doing Nebraska football, that they'll be able to play they'll be able to play the USCs and UCLAs more often. They'll play Penn State. Not worry about having to win that division, but go chase Ohio State, go chase USC. So we'll see if they can do that.
Tom, whenever I saw some response to your article yesterday, it didn't seem to me that people were arguing that the Big Ten West was the inferior division in the Big Ten. I think that's been pretty common knowledge. But there were people out there who wanted to say that Nebraska was the reason that the Big Ten West failed to live up to expectations by the Big Ten. Well, what's your response to that? Is that a fair assessment, or is that off base?
First of all, I don't go on Twitter very much.
Good for you.
And I don't tweet much. I try to get away from that, and I've actually done a pretty good job of that because it's not reality. It's not the real world. If people were upset about that, I had 0 emails on that. Okay, 0 emails on that column. So, just fine.
It's been viewed 1.4 million times on Twitter, brother.
Are people really upset about this?
You've had some national guys.
Said the Big Ten West has been average and mediocre 100 million times? Have we not said Nebraska has been part of the problem, and they have been utterly disappointing and underachieving? Have we not said that 100 million times? Sure, we have. It's a beaten down story. It's old news. It was a throwaway line in my column, but by the way, Trev Alberts in the same column says we need, Nebraska needs to get back to being the team that the Big Ten wanted. Mm-hmm. So this is a theme that has been written about and talked about over and over and over. So for anybody to be upset about the word slumming or what, to me, everybody in the Big Ten West has been slumming. Shouldn't they all aspire to be better than the Big Ten West? And shouldn't they all want to be better than that? I mean, that's what I like about Nebraska football. You can beat them down, but they haven't lost faith. They haven't lost the hunger to be great. And I think being out of the Big Ten West will. I think if they help themselves, I think it will help them do that.
Tom Shatel's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. You can find Tom on Twitter at Tom Shatel, OWH. Read him with the World Herald, of course. Tom, a thought from you on what Nebraska may have to do, and the schedule could be so vicious, and 2025 looks that way, not just for Nebraska, but for about everybody in the Big Ten. And Trev's hit on this a couple of times about how it's just going to be a meat grinder for everyone in the league, which will help with strength of schedule and theoretically playoff positioning for the conference, multiple teams. But you have some really fun non-conference games that are on the horizon. Another home and home with Oklahoma, Tennessee not far away. I'm relishing getting back to Boulder. Those may be rethought in the near future. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it might be, and it would just be on Nebraska's end. It would be
right.
You know, I think it's Tennessee may want to decide. Well, we don't need to play Nebraska. We've got all these other guys. See, the 12-team playoff is as we figure out what that means and what you have to do to get in there. That's when teams will adjust. If you can just play your conference games and get in with a loss or two, then, you're going to see teams, they're going to bail out on these games. That also depends on how many conference games the SEC is going to play. Trev was of the mind that the SEC, by having one more year of 8 conference games, it's just trying to get something more out of ESPN. It's sort of a negotiating thing because ESPN will certainly want to have them play 9 and have extra, Texas A&M games and that kind of thing. So who knows? But I don't know what's going to happen. What I'm interested in, I really miss those non-conference games. That's always had to be one. They've always played one from one of the top leagues, or they've always been Washington. Over the years, UCLA. Of course, now Nebraska, UCLA is a conference game. So it's what I'm curious about, guys, is the impact of the Big Ten, and I really think it's going to be weird for some people because imagine growing up in the Big Ten and having just 10 teams and Ohio State, Michigan, and all of the trophy games and everything you love about the Big Ten. And all of a sudden, you've let in Nebraska and Maryland and Rutgers and now UCLA, USC. And I don't think expansion is necessarily done. I think that they may go south eventually. And you keep hearing about Miami or Florida State or, certainly Notre Dame if they can get them in. But, this is going to become a national conference. And it's going to be, not just the old meat and potatoes, that 3 yards in a cloud of dust deal. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of different kind of matchups, and the priorities are going to change with the playoff. Sort of the Rose Bowl, it's the playoff, and how do you get in? There's no divisions, so everybody's in one giant mosh pit. It's going to be, I think, for the next decade, the Big Ten is going to be a lot of adjustments, and. But I really think, Nebraska is sort of an outsider still. We don't have a lot of trophy games, don't have a lot of rivalries yet. So maybe it'll be an easier adjustment around here. But I don't know. It's a weird time in college football, that's for sure.
It is, and it's going to be fascinating to see teams have to adjust 1 week to Lincoln Riley's offense, and then say the next week you got to go play Iowa with a fullback and 2 tight ends. What's your defense going to be made of? What can your offensive line do against some speed and some physicality? That's what's going to be fascinating to see how the schedules not only shake out, but how are they stacked? What's your new November look like? It used to be Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, where you better get an ice tub ready every.
Well, maybe it'll be Nebraska with the fullback and 2 tight ends.
Yep.
And it'll be Wisconsin with everybody spread out.
That's how it's going to look, isn't it? Tom,
it'll be upside down.
Well, we say thanks again, Tom, for the time. Really enjoyed your column and appreciate you giving us a few minutes.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Have fun.
Good to spend time with Tom Shatel. Thoughts on his story and some of the blowback. And we'll switch to recruiting next. Sam Koch, Super Bowl champ. His son's headed to the Big Red.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency, Husker Hall of Famer, all-century Baltimore Ravens punter, Sam Koch with us. And Sam, what a weekend. Thanks for the time. Great to hear your voice again. And congrats to your family. Congrats to Kamdyn for the scholarship. How are you doing?
We are doing great. Just it's such a surreal moment for him to go there, or to get the opportunity to go there. It's something he's been working for. It's really very commendable to him, because it's one of those things that everybody says, it's not what you do in front of everybody, it's what you do behind those closed doors. And it took a lot of work and commitment and sacrifice on his part by going to lacrosse practice after lacrosse practice, running and punting, or running and going and working out and doing all the things he needed to do while nobody was watching, in order to achieve something that's one of his goals in life, and that was to play for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And to see it come to life, it was just such a surreal moment to be a part of, and super proud as a dad to be able to be a part of that.
Sam Koch is with us. His son, Kamdyn, another commit for Nebraska football, the first specialist when you look at 2024. Sam, take us through a little bit of the process. I'm looking at the photo from Nebraska. Kamdyn suited up, and you got a big old grin on your face, so I know you're beaming with pride and very proud. But take us through Kamdyn's commitment process and how you got back to Nebraska as an option.
Well, it was one of those things. He went through like his sophomore year in high school, and that's kind of when he really started taking off and focusing on it. And his body was changing. The difference between the sophomore year to his junior year was such a huge leap, and it's a huge attribute to him on his personality and what he's trying to achieve. And for him to go out there and spend all those hours on his own, and to practice his craft and do everything he needed to do to get to this moment, it's definitely paying off. And it was one of those things I told him. I was never been a huge camp guy, partly because we didn't have a whole lot of camps growing up. But I told him what he needed to do was start filming all of his sessions, when he works with another friend of mine, if I can't help him out, and to be able to send these videos to the college coaches, to these teams that are possibly his picks. And that part ended up paying off, because talking to Ed Foley, and he's telling me how he watched these films prior to Kamdyn coming and been in contact with him, asking him how he's doing, asking me and asking me how he's doing. And then getting the opportunity to go to this camp and to show up in front of, Coach Rule, Coach Foley, all the coaches that were there that day, and put on a great hunting session. It paid off for him. And like I said, it's just a huge attribute to his personality and his work ethic.
Well, was he a kid who always dreamed of being a Husker, knowing Dad went there, knowing Dad was a legend around there? What was Nebraska always a dream spot for him, or what's the backstory with Kamdyn in Nebraska?
Yeah, the backstory, well, it was funny because my oldest son always said he wanted to go to Nebraska, and then it gets close to going to college, and then he chooses another college. And then my other son, Braxton, was really big into punting and kicking, and was basically doing the same thing that Kamdyn was, and then got diagnosed with Crohn's, and that kind of threw a wrench in everything. So he had to take a two-year hiatus on punting and kicking. And I think for Kamdyn to watch my son Braxton go through that day in, day out, put in the time in the weight room, put in the time on the field in punting and kicking, it kind of rubbed off on Kamdyn. And once Braxton was not able to because of the Crohn's, Kamdyn kind of picked up that slack. And I remember Kamdyn always said, he just remembers watching Braxton doing that. Once he couldn't, he felt like it was his opportunity to kind of pick that up for Braxton and be able to do this for his brother. And so it's definitely a cool story, because he even told that to his son Braxton as well. And how he was basically doing this, this was his dream, and Kamdyn gets the opportunity to fulfill that for him. to answer your question as far as Nebraska, it's always been Kamdyn, but I wasn't holding my hope on it just because all the other boys ended up going to some other colleges. So, for him to have that ability to pick the school that he wanted to go into or have that as an option and then go to the camp and them honor him like that was huge.
Excuse me there, Sam. Sam Koch is with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Ravens legend, and, of course, Husker Hall of Famer. His son Kamdyn committing to Nebraska over the weekend as a punter, and it sounds like it was just an extraordinary opportunity, and then you deliver on that chance. Sam, before we say goodbye, and I know you're between meetings, I really appreciate you giving us a few minutes. Just your overall impression of the Nebraska staff you got to spend time with. I don't know if you have much backstory with Rule and his staff, but what do you think as a former Husker coming back?
Well, every time I come back to Nebraska, it's such an inviting place to be. And when I've been gone for so long and I only get back a week here or a couple days here or there, it's always something I cherish going back to. And getting the opportunity to just see the red and white, go down to Husker Stadium, be a part of that atmosphere, that tradition, and then the types of people that they hire around there. It's just such a great feeling of like being back home. Mm-hmm. And the coaching staff, Ed Foley was amazing, just such a great guy, and got to speak with Coach Rule for a little bit. It's just such a great experience, not only for myself, just because you get to see the new coaching staff and what they're trying to build and what they're trying to build off of the legacy that has gone before them and the things that they're trying to achieve. It's a remarkable football team, and I see a lot of positive things coming their way in the future.
Tell me, Sam, before we get you out of here, a couple years down the road here, Kamdyn marches onto the field. Will you be happy to see him or sad to see him? Because on one hand, it's your son on the field, but on the other hand, that means Nebraska's drive stalled out.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're always happy to see him now. He can also be holding, too, so we got our work to do on that. So we'll be holding, and just for him to wear that uniform and him wanting me to be in the picture, him wanting to wear number 4 is just so, honored. That he wants to kind of follow in my footsteps. And like I always tell him, I was like, look, you're not following my footsteps, you're making your own footsteps. And so you just keep on working like you have, and it'll continue to pay off.
Sam, that's a great story. We're happy for you. Always love catching up, and good to spend a few minutes with you here on Hail Varsity. Thanks for your time today.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff with Sam Koch. Kamdyn is part of Big Red Football for 2024, the specialist that Coach Foley and Rule liked, and good for Kamdyn getting the offer and accepting. Good to hear from Sam Koch. We'll wind down Hour 1 with Hail Varsity Radio.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks to Sam Koch, Tom Shatel this hour on Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio and Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, as he has got his Denver jersey on. Crew reminding you to get some sun, and you just can't do it with your umping schedule, Elijah, to get some sun, but no worries. I got plenty more sun for you this weekend as we were hunkered down in baseball.
I get it from the elbow down. I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. The umpiring shirt gets me there. Everything else, don't even act my legs. They're bad. They're bad.
Turn it off.
Well, and the thing is how am I expected to get some sun? I'm going to get made fun of for wearing a sleeveless shirt, but then I got to wear the sleeveless shirt to get some sun.
You've got to just schedule a pool day.
I don't have time for that.
We're going to be on assignment Saturday. I'll be in the Black Hills. Kranak will be at baseball as well. So I don't think we're doing a Saturday show. I
still got to umpire on Saturday, though.
No.
See, that's the problem. Is during the week I'm here. On the weekend I'm umpiring. So I get my son out umpiring. Makes me feel a lot better. But maybe we'll we'll have you produce one of these Hail Varsity shows, and I'll do it by the pool.
That would not be a tire fire or anything like that.
That's our options.
I could do it. I would not go well. I would scream at myself.
I wouldn't actually make you do that. I like sitting in this chair too much.
I think I can get us off the runway as far as the landing goes. Could be a problem. Charlie McBride's coming up here in 10 minutes. We'll also hear from Jay Moore and a lot of blowback and talk when it comes to the term slumming in the Big Ten West. We'll get Coach's take on just, from a football coach's perspective. It's a lot different than media or fans. And they're in it. They're in the thick of it week in and week out. I'm interested to hear from him what was tougher, the Big 8, the Big 12, and what he's thought of the Big 10. And just what's it really like week in, week out, where they aren't taking an Iowa State or a Kansas for granted. Well, you've traded up back in the throwback days, pre-Glenn Mason, Kansas, or the Iowa States, and I don't mean to demean Iowa State because Jim Walden's with us tomorrow. I love Gentleman Jim. But you know what we're saying, where there was an opponent or two or maybe three on the schedule, not through any fault of your own, that was a win. It was a win, and you get your backups in. And now Nebraska, I don't want to say has turned into that win, but they aren't even close to being as formidable. The best way to put it is everyone else is caught up.
Everyone else is caught up, and Nebraska seems to, every single year, every single summer, either in June or July, some piece will come out from Nebraska that is now bulletin board material for all the opposition in the Big Ten West.
But this is not quotes from Trev, but Tom was not wrong. There's been a ceiling on the West, and it's been good, but you've not really been part of that fight to at least challenge the Big Ten East.
Well, was Scott necessarily wrong whenever he made that comment about Indiana not being Ohio State?
No, he's not.
Like winnable games? He wasn't wrong, but it still turned into bulletin board material.
It is. You just don't say it because everyone's pretty good and their staffs are good and they might be as good or way better of a coach than you. Reminder to get buckled up, hands on the wheel, eyes and mind straight ahead. The driver, one job, that's to drive a message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
McBride with us. Coach, how was the weekend? It looks like you had some visitors.
Oh yeah, some of the old timers came up for a good day, and we sat around and had a great time. We did. We went out in the boat, but let's put it this way: the baloney was really flowing.
A lot of stories, some former players.
Oh, yeah. It's fun. I'll tell you when it's fun is this, all the guys that people don't really know, but I know the offensive guys as much as I know the defensive guys. I'm not as, close personally as far as, them, but, we're with each other every day, and you really get to know them. And when you have some kind of a function or something and you say, well, invite your friends, the defensive guys always invite the offensive guys, and the offensive guys always invite the defensive guys either way. So it's a good thing. And but to see these guys, it's makes me feel good.
I bet it does. Charlie McBride with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, let's talk a little bit about the news. And the news has been kind of a new look Big Ten with the schedule release later last week, where it's going to get pretty hot and heavy, it sounds like, every week in the Big Ten as divisions are going away. What do you think?
Well, that's the way the Big Ten kind of used to be when it was the Big Ten. Everybody played everybody, and I think they cut back one game so that it could play everybody. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I remember when it did. So that, I mean, there wasn't a school that didn't play each other. And it was year after year. It was just home and home. That was it. You know who you were going with. You had, I think, 2 practice games instead of 3, and that was kind of how it traveled for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things is when you look at it, you know that you get I think they had a pick of what team do you want to keep, no matter what. I think it was kind of a deal that was thrown up for everybody to just have their choice, and then I think Nebraska, Trev put down three teams, but you know, everybody knew it was only going to be one, it couldn't be anybody but Iowa. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when you look at the people, they're both the same kind of people. They're both hard working. It's the same kind of state. It's, there's so many good things about both of the states.
Charlie, if you could take us back to the Big 8 days and you had your choice for 3 protected rivalries that you wanted to keep, which 3 Big 8 schools or even Big 12 schools would you choose to be Nebraska's 3 protected rivals?
Well, naturally, it was Oklahoma was one of them. We always felt like one of our practice games ought to be Wyoming or the Air Force Academy, which was close. And that's money part, of it. But other than that, I think they just kind of let it go. And, we always wanted to play Utah. And I think in my years that I was there, we played them one time. That was it. Well, I think at that time, people were trying to fit things in closer, as far as travel, because it wasn't that easy. And like it is now, where you have charters and all these other things. So it was a matter of trying to get the best teams around you as you could, and we always tried to get on the coast, and that didn't always work. But we did play Washington one time and things like that. But you would never, and I don't think Oklahoma, I think they'd do the same thing. Oklahoma would say Nebraska and Texas. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's even changed. If they probably had their choice to go back, they may say the same thing, even though we're not in that conference.
Coach, what was it like for you? I mean, I know it was a name on the schedule. You had to get fundamentally sound and get guys developed and ready to play, but there were some years there where you really had a tough non-conference schedule. And I'm not saying you didn't have a tough game on the non-conference every year. I think you did. You'd have a name opponent. You'd have a couple of games before that name opponent came in, and then you kicked off conference season. But there were some years there where you had Alabama, where you had Auburn, where you had Penn State, where you had Florida. You played Florida State a lot in the 1980s. Yeah. What was your view on that? Did you like playing those type of games or coaching in those types of games?
Yeah, I did. The Kickoff Classic was really big for us.
Yes.
We felt like that it was, we were playing well at the time. We had good teams. We felt confidence, and win or lose, we felt confident playing well against them. And when we played, I think we played A&M, we played Penn State, we played West Virginia, and so we played at the time. We played some really, really good teams to start out with, and that's kind of a hard thing to do at the beginning of the year, but that's just the way we kind of went that way, and you threw your bones up, whether before you went and after you went.
What do you think now about this schedule, and specifically Nebraska in the Big Ten? Why hasn't it worked? And can it work with things spreading out where you're going to see Nebraska, in this case, they'll see Iowa. They'll need to be able to beat Iowa. They'll see UCLA. They'll see Minnesota. Who do you have to be able to beat if you're Nebraska?
Well, right now you got to beat Michigan and Ohio State. I think just like everybody else does the same thing in the conference. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was looking the other night. Michigan's already got 17 kids committed. You know, they're rated like second in the country in recruiting, and you know, it's kind of it's a tough deal. The thing that's got to happen is you got to get people to come in there, and it can be us, and to beat those guys, and you know, things start to turn around a little bit. But those, you know, like I think if you want to be the best, you play the best. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the only way I can put it that way. I guess that's the way we tried to do it at Wisconsin. When I was there, we never were greatly successful, but we beat Penn State, we beat Nebraska, we beat, you know, and we came up with some big wins at that time. And but we get a guy hurt, and that was the end of it. You know, we didn't have the depth that the other schools had at the time. And you know, here's something that I probably have never said, but you have to coach for depth. Mm-hmm. In other words, you can't just sit there and work with one guy. You got to work with all of them and make them all better players. You can't just do it with one team, or you know, it doesn't work. So you try to get every player in your team, make him better than he thinks he can be.
Charlie McBride's with us here at Hail Varsity Radio. And Charlie, you mentioned the fact of coaching for depth there, and that brings up an interesting point. I want to get your thoughts on the importance of having a group of ones that can also help the coaching staff and assist the coaching staff in helping your depth. I mean, you can coach up the ones, and then your ones can coach up the twos, you coach up the threes. Is that a viable strategy that you think Nebraska needs to improve upon, that you have a group of ones that's good enough that they are assisting in the development of the twos and the threes?
Well, you have to understand that in their group work, you really try to work with all of them. I mean, you at some point in time, you have to let them all work, and have the older guys, when the younger guys do something wrong, to help you a little bit coaching, because you may break your thing down, your individual work. Say if it's like a defensive line, it may be 2-on-1. It may be 3-on-1, you know, and things like that. And you rotate around. In other words, that group. So all 3 or 4 of those guys get a shot, whether they're freshmen or seniors or anybody else. However, you keep the older guys together, you know, and the younger guys you probably try to keep together, but they all get a chance, and it gives the older guys a chance to rest. You know, it works that way, and then when you have maybe ones and twos and ones in a scrimmage of some kind, which we had on Wednesday, we had alternates all the time with ones and twos. So you really had 3s and 4s that weren't playing, so we had a scrimmage with them. And me, I would go down with the 3s and 4s because I trusted my other coaches to watch. I mean, they know what's going on, but I got a chance to see the younger guys, you know, and see what they can do. And when I'm there, they're saying, "Hey, look who's here," you know, and they'll play harder. And if I'm not there, they'll screw around a little bit with the graduate assistants and do stuff like that. So, you know, there's a reason for everything.
Charlie McBride's with us. A Monday with Charlie. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, what was the mindset or the feeling of always being a team that was chased? Right now, Nebraska's feels like it's chasing everybody, and maybe that gets flipped around with Coach Rule, but You guys always had to knock heads with Oklahoma and then Colorado and then Texas, but you were right there and you were competing and winning a lot. I mean, you were chasing Florida State and vice versa, Miami, Florida. I mean, just go down the list when it came to getting to that mountaintop and then eventually winning championships. But you had everybody else chasing you as a program. How did you guys deal with that?
Well, the thing is when you had people chasing us, you'd practice. You never let up when you practice. Every game is important, and it's conveying that to the players is not hard. It's hard as when you're winning. It's something. If you lose one game, you're not going to play for the national championship. I remember starting out to win the conference. Man, we're just win the conference, and that got to be a big deal. But pretty soon, if you don't, we were talking about, well, we want to win the conference, but we want to win the national championship. So we started talking about that, and that lit some eyes up because you have to win the conference to play for the national championship. So you're saying the same thing basically to them. You're saying, hey, we got to win. We want to win the national championship. Well, that's telling you better win the conference first, or you're going nowhere. And so that was really important to convey it. And I think the big thing is the players themselves. They will determine what kind of football team. You can have a coach be the greatest coach in the world and everything else, but it comes down to the players' mindset and how they play together. And that's really important. That you win some games sometimes just on the fact that your people are really care about each other more, and you got some games that guys care about themselves only, and those are the guys you want to really pound on.
Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, what's the plan for this week? Any more visitors on the way?
No, I got R&R.
You get to take a breath?
I'll probably be, just working around here, doing stuff, and hope it doesn't rain. It rained today and a little bit, and kind of shut everything down, but that's okay. That's good once in a while.
No, that'll be good. We'll
going down to the baseball game.
Well, we head out for baseball. We're headed to the Black Hills this week.
Oh, that's good.
Should be all right.
What, kids, following kids and being part of it is a great part of life.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Getting back to the Black Hills and seeing him. Yep.
Right. I always coached, and the biggest joy I got out of coaching was when you win and seeing the kids. After it's over, it's pretty exciting. People don't maybe look at it that way, but I love to see kids hug each other, and that's pretty good. Like the guys that came this week, that's the kind of guys they were.
That's awesome. Well, we're making sure Junior gets a bath and a haircut so he's approachable. That's the goal today. So,
okay.
Coach, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for the time today.
Okay, guys. Have a good week.
You
Thanks
too.
a lot for having me. Okay. Bye now.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride on Hail Varsity. The Blackshirt Hour continues. Jay Moore going to be with us on Hail Varsity.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Yeah, it was really good. Got a little golf in. Got some family stuff done. A little yard work done. I actually bought a inflatable cold tub and
Ooh.
got that thing built and put it in my back patio and bought 4 bags of ice for it yesterday and sat in it for about 20 minutes. So
did you?
yeah, that was. I'm sure you wanted to discuss that a little bit.
Well, I just was wondering how many Cold Coors Lights are in the cold tub with you.
Well, that's my thought too. I'm like, ooh, this could be. You could hit 2 birds with 1 stone and make this a cooler too. But no Coors Lights were had yesterday. Just a little cold tub.
Well,
I've been trying to take care of my body a little better.
Take that tub down to downtown on a game day. You'll be the most popular man in North Bottoms. I tell you what.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should rent it out.
Jay's taking care of his body. He can still bench press the living room, and I'm debating to buy a kiddie pool for my 2 fat dogs, out back. My cold tub, one of the kiddie pools. Or get in with the dogs.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's a glorified. It's an expensive kiddie pool. That's what. But it insulates a little bit. Has a nice little cover to it. So yeah, I didn't even think about it being a cooler. But I tell you what, that might get utilized for that at least a couple times here in the span of it.
I like it. Jay Moore is with us. Jay, we're talking to Tom Shatel today, and the old hand grenade pin was pulled, and some folks took offense. The Twitter mentions were a lot of arrows towards Nebraska because of the term slumming with the Big Ten West. And wow, I mean, I know the West wasn't ever competitive come Big Ten championship game. You had a handful of nice moments if you were Iowa or even Purdue, but you can count on one hand the takedown of Ohio State by both of those schools, or a close ball game against an East Power on a fall night in Kinnick, and even Nebraska taking down Sparty in 2015. But it's really been lopsided. The scales of football justice are one-sided, and then the term slumming. I got a kick out of it, and Tom got quite a reaction.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I'm comparing it to, Nebraska coming in as a roommate, right? And this is, you think it's going to be a really good roommate. You're like, hey, they got their credibility is fantastic. They're never late on bills. They clean up after themselves. Then after a couple of years, all things went to hell, and they were a bad roommate, and they were slumming it with everyone else. So it's fun. It's funny. It's a fun conversation. But Nebraska didn't hold up the end of the bargain either. They were a good roommate there in the Big Ten West. Or what were they in originally? Legends or Leaders? I don't even remember.
I think it was Legends. Does that sound right? I don't know. I've tried to erase that part of my brain, but it was
it doesn't matter.
It was so screwy.
Neither here nor there. But when they were part of whatever division they were in,
it was the Legends. It was the Legends.
It was the Legends. Okay. They're doing their part. They're playing and competing. Got to a Big Ten championship game, and then Wisconsin just tore them a new one and made them it became a really bad roommate after that for the most part, and just never seemed to recover. And I think from afar, you could say, you look at it, you say slumming, but I think we all know how good the West still is. It's tough. Unless you're Ohio State, Michigan, maybe you could throw Penn State. Michigan State had their time in the sun 4 or 5 years ago when they made the original college football playoff. But it's a brutal conference. The West is tough. And I think that's what we overestimated so much come the Big Ten, was how hard it is to play Northwestern and Purdue and in Minnesota and in Iowa and all these schools. Because you looked at them when we were in the Big 12 and you saw that, Wisconsin only beat Iowa by 3 and it was 17-14. You're like, what a two bad football teams. But you're like, no, man, there are still good football teams. It's just hard to win the Big Ten. It's throwback football. It's being able to run the football, own the line of scrimmage, take care of it, own the time of possession, limit turnovers. You got to play really good all 3 phases. And I know the previous staff definitely underestimated that aspect when they stepped foot and competed in the Big Ten. So it's a funny conversation. Slumming, I don't know about slumming, but I think Tom he got what he wanted to get out of it. He ruffled some feathers, which is always a good thing in June when there's nothing else to talk about, but except for maybe College World Series around here.
You're in that conversation, and it's one thing to poke fun at the West for its style of football or its competitive imbalance against some of the big dogs. But the thing is to your point, Nebraska just didn't beat any of the big dogs thinking they're a big dog. Mm-hmm. And that's a criticism of some of the Nebraska fan base. There's so many Nebraska fans that absolutely get it and are right about not holding up your end. And Trev has even said that last week. Jobs to go win these football games as you have a new Big Ten emerging here in 2024, 2025 with schedules. And your protected rivals, Iowa, you're going to get 2 with Minnesota. You're going to get 2 with UCLA. But it's absolutely going to be murder every week. And it's always kind of felt like that. Maybe you outskill some people in the Big Ten West if you're Nebraska, but you've not out-hit them. You've not out-tackled them. You've not out-physicaled them. And you've not out-executed in the fourth quarter.
No, you haven't. No, we haven't seen that in a while. It's at times. We saw it a little bit last year. Mm-hmm. You look at the Iowa game, I think that always will. I'll remember that one just because of the circumstances that Nebraska was dealing with and Iowa. But it's so many times in big-time Big Ten games, Nebraska just didn't hold up to the end of the bargain. They weren't the most physical team. They did not take care of the football. Special teams weren't very good. It's just you can go down the list of the things that we had issues with, and that's whether it was Bo's teams, Mike Riley's, or Scott Frost's teams. They all had, they showed signs of promise at certain points, but it was never a consistent thing. That's just the thing. That was probably the frustrating thing is with Nebraska football is at times like, man, that is some damn good football. And then whether it was maybe for a quarter, maybe for a half, and they'd come out in the second half and it'd look like a whole completely different team, or they play well against Minnesota, but come out the next week and lay an egg against Purdue. Like, what the heck just happened? So I think that's the thing the word that will always stick with me. And so far in the the latter half of our time in the Big Ten is just we have not just been a consistent football program. At times we look like it, but for the most time, the only thing that was consistent was we weren't a good football program. And that's just what it was. And there's so many things that go into this, and it's coaching, it's physicality, it's systems, it's schemes, it's understanding the game, and special teams. There's so many things that go into it, and it's been frustrating. And I hope that you'd like to think that the new staff with Coach Rule has a better understanding of it, and him being a Big Ten guy himself and knows what it is. Obviously, the Big Ten is going to change vastly here going into 2024, but I still think that's going to be the same deal. I think UCLA and USC are going to have. I think they're in for a rude awakening when they step in here. I know Lincoln Riley and gosh, why am I blanking on UCLA's coach, Chip Kelly? Mm-hmm. The Pac-12 is still the Pac-12, and we know what that is. And they don't play very good defense. I don't think special teams are a priority. I think they just try to outscore everyone. They do, and that's what made Oregon successful. And I think that's what Scott struggled with as well, as having that same mentality. We'll just outscore everyone. Well, you can't. You're not, because you don't ever get the ball back because teams run it and they control the line of scrimmage, and then they flip the field on you, and all of a sudden you're pinned inside your own 10. And you're like, we can't do anything. So I think that's going to be interesting just to see how this is going to play out for them too, because you're not playing Washington State, you're not playing Arizona, you're not playing Arizona State, Cal. No disrespect, it's just I think the Big Ten is just is other than the SEC the deepest conference, top to bottom. It's people don't realize how hard it is to go to Northwestern and Evanston and win in November. They just don't. So it's gonna be fun to see it play out, and I hopefully Nebraska, you've stubbed your toe enough and you've done so many dumb things and you've touched this hot stove enough that you've finally learned to not do it anymore and figure out how to just become a better football program, straightforward.
Jay, with all that in mind, how important do you think it is that Nebraska can build some momentum in 2023 as the Big Ten gets what's likely to be exponentially harder? Does Nebraska need to be the king of the slum next season?
Not necessarily. I think you just got to learn to win, and learn and be consistent in your that process of learning to win. I think, and don't get frustrated in trying to, if things don't go your way, to be so quick to change things or try to do something different. I think that was kind of a fault of the previous staff too, was when it seems like things are constantly changing. We might not have noticed it, but I think behind the scenes, I think you can almost try too hard to your fault, so where you overthink it, and it's like, man, it's still football, man. It's still blocking and tackling and loaning the line of scrimmage and and being physical and take care of the ball. I just want them to be, just consistently better each week and just try to get better each week, which I know they will. And I think every team before they tried to do that, it wasn't portrayed that way to us on Saturdays. Just getting back to, having a chance and being in the discussion to win the division in November is that'd be a huge thing for this program going forward next year. Being in the bowl conversation, that's a big time thing. Having a chance to go 7-5, which I think is very, very realistic. I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. That shouldn't be out of the discussion. And I think there's enough talent here that to get that done. So whether it's slumming or whatever you want to call it, hopefully this last year we can come out of the we're on good terms with the landlord, right? And slumming it. So that we have a chance to maybe go to Indy or to be in the discussion of going to Indianapolis, in late October, early November, like we all thought it was going to be for many, many years.
Jay Moore is with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer and co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Hail Varsity Radio at JMoore44. Jay, want to get your take on in-state recruiting. Nebraska has a lot of options for 2024, 2025, and beyond. You have so many prospects across the state, but really a really nice concentration as well in some of the metro areas of in-state talent, and I don't know that you can get them all, and that's just the reality of recruiting now, and it's been an issue for Nebraska in past seasons where in-state kids go elsewhere. Part of that's the winning we've been talking about, or lack of winning, and the other part of it is, have you been on top of your backyard? And I think Nebraska's got a little bit more focus now. What do you feel like as an in-state kid that was highly touted and recruited heavily by your home state school? Do you think it's important for Nebraska, or does it need to be, yes, it's important, but they still got to be selective?
I think it's very important. I think you got to make a concerted effort to keep the best in-state talent here. And I know it's not, we've let a lot of good talent slip out here the last 5-6 years, but it's also because Nebraska hasn't been very good. It's funny when you talk to the guys I was playing golf with, and one of the guys, he's 28 years old, and he's like, I don't remember what it was like when Nebraska was good. That was the time. He goes, I remember watching, about my time, 06, but like 07, 08. He goes, I remember those, those last years in the Big 12 and in the Big 10, and then it was, wasn't very, then what we have now. To imagine some of these kids who are 17, 18, they haven't seen good football, good Nebraska football in a long, long time, unless the parents are diehards. Mm-hmm. It's hard. That's very, very hard to try to commit to it and just want to be a part of that. So, going forward, I know the staff. They've already done so much work, seeing every high school multiple times, developing relationships with in-state staffs, and doing whatever they have. I think every stone's darn near been turned over through the first 6 months that they've been here. I just don't know what it's going to look like from a numbers basis. I know they had 39 guys in this last recruiting cycle. I don't know if that's going to be the case going forward. I know the classes are going to be bigger than what they ever been. You just have to, because with attrition, until the portal stuff and all the NIL stuff and all that kind of gets cleaned up. I think you're going to have to sign larger than normal classes, because you're just going to lose 10 to 15 guys every year potentially that are on scholarship. They're just going to go somewhere else because they can.
Mm-hmm.
So until this thing is cleaned up, I think you're going to see bigger classes, which I'm totally fine with. You got to do what you have to do. And hopefully with these bigger classes, you're able to go after and recruit all the best in-state kids, whether it's out of Westside, Bell West, Gretna, Cozad, you go Ainsworth, you just go down the list of whatever schools that all the best kids are at in the state currently. You want to get them, you want to keep them here. And I don't know if that's always going to be the case, but I sure hope, because if I'm gonna lose on anyone, I'm gonna lose on a Nebraska kid. That'd be my mentality going forward.
And I'll say this: the staffs, I believe this. They'll do everything in their power to take an in-state kid over other options. The in-state talent's still got to hit a certain standard to be taken. But if it's a decision between an in-state and an out-of-state, you got to hopefully side and get the in-state. All that being said, Jay, with what Nebraska's doing in Texas, I think they're going to be able to supplement what they may not get from Nebraska with Texas talent, and that's not always been the case.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Obviously, with the relationships that Coach Bruhl and his staff have down there, and the people that he's brought in on his staff, and I mean, that's not going to be an issue. I mean, I think we're going to get back to the Big 12 days of having, 6+ guys in every recruiting cycle from Texas, which I love. Texas football is, some of the best out there, if not the best. Kids come in. Usually the kids that I played with in Texas play very, very early because they play at a high level. They're playing in front of 20, 30, 40,000 people in around the state, and football's a big time deal. They have spring ball. They have meetings, during school on, X's and O's. So they approach about as close as you can to a Division I football level. So I think that that's why you see kids from Texas just play earlier, because they're just used to the chaos of high level football, which is great, because there is so much talent. There is so much talent down there that that gets overlooked by Texas and Texas A&M and Texas Tech, TCU. That we'll take wherever, those great players from those great teams that are in that Metroplex area with Dallas, Fort Worth, and so on. Just other West Texas. There's so much talent there. It's crazy. So I'll tell you what, you can build a hell of a recruiting class with Texas, Nebraska, and then you can pick and choose from other states in the Southeast and out west too to make your football team better.
Jane, in your opinion, from guys that you played with and guys that you've watched play, do you think that Texas to Nebraska makes more sense in terms of what type of living there is in each place? But we talked about it a couple of years ago with Nebraska trying to build that Florida connection, and then a lot of these Florida kids end up leaving, and COVID's a part of that, but it's also part of the culture in Nebraska. Do you think there's a better culture match between Texas and Nebraska?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the Florida guys I knew. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to compare. I mean, I don't know. I sound like an old guy, and I say I think kids are a little different now, maybe. But
Nebraska's a little different too.
Yeah, that too. There's something to it. I think, back in the day, it was easy to recruit in the Big 12 because you're down in Texas because you're coming down there to play, a couple times a year, whether it was against Texas A&M, Texas Tech, or even you're coming down to Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, and your parents could drive to the games. Obviously all the games are on television now, so I think all kids are different, but I think culturally, if you want to compare Texas and Florida, I think definitely Texas is a better match to come play in Nebraska than Florida kids. But I tell you what, there's a lot of talented guys that come out of Florida too that I would sure take in a heartbeat to play. But again, they have to fit what you want. They have to fit what you want, and they need to experience a winner too. Because I know some of those guys that get here and they go through, they leave after for Christmas break, and they come back and they see that January and February, man. Some of those Florida guys don't come out of their dorm room for a week.
Jay Moore's with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up at Jay Moore 44. Jay, always fun to get caught up. Thanks for a few minutes with us today.
Yep, you got it, guys.
Good stuff today. Podcast is full for you today. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, the whole show, or the segment you want to hear. That's Sam Koch on his son's commitment to Nebraska. Tom Shatel on his column. Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. That was Jay Moore. We'll wind down a Monday and get Elijah's pick for his Nuggets. Steak and a beer and on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Big thanks to Tom Shatel and Jay Moore, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, and Husker standout and Super Bowl champ Sam Koch on his son Kamdyn's commitment to Nebraska over the weekend. Jim Walden, longtime Iowa State and Washington State coach, part of Nebraska and Devaney staff. Man, we will have some fun with Jim Walden tomorrow. We'll spend time with Mitch Sherman. Mitch had a great story on recruiting. We'll revisit with him when it comes to some of the misses in the recruiting world that Nebraska had, some of the hits, some of the unsung hits. So good story from Mitch, and a great week recap of recruiting with Brady Oltmans over the weekend as well. Get to some emails later tomorrow that came in, and the topic of slumming was quite funny, very intense, and is sure to be remembered. One last rodeo for the fall, but good stuff by Tom Shatel. Tom does an awesome job and he's done it for decades.
And that's what's interesting about this conversation is Tom isn't wrong with what he said, but neither of the people that are calling him out. Nobody's necessarily wrong in this. It's all about perspective and how you take the connotation of these words. And I legitimately don't think that either side in this argument is right or wrong.
No, Nebraska do a better job. Hey, Nebraska, you used to be Chasen, or you used to be Bama. You used to be Clemson. And I don't think he's off either in the sense, if you get out of the West and your job is to now be global versus the town or the city or the state or the neighborhood, if you're globally good in the league, you're going to be able to beat and compete if you're if you get up to speed. If you can beat Oregon, you should be able to beat Illinois. No offense, different style, but just from a talent standpoint. And Oregon's a team that's not even in the league. I understand that, but maybe someday they will be. If you can beat UCLA, if you can beat USC, if you can start beating Ohio State, you can beat Michigan. Maybe. Nebraska wasn't that far off 3 years ago from beating Michigan. But yet they've not sniffed Illinois in their last 3 outings. Now, to Illinois' credit, they should have beat Michigan at the Big House last year. So, it's just a vicious cycle of got to be ready, bro. You got to be ready every single week. And I think that's very fair. 489-1240 numbers to get in. Let us talk Nuggets. Let us talk Heat. -8.5. Denver can be partying, popping champagne, gummies, whatever the hell they do in the Mile High City. Are you nervous or excited tonight?
Oh, excited.
I'm taking the Heat and the points.
Done.
Yeah? Steak and a beer? Steak and a beer?
Done. Steak and a beer. I'm going to go watch this
You're going to
game.
want like 2 tomahawks, aren't you?
I'm going to watch this game with my dad, my brother, and a couple of my dad's friends because we want to watch the Nuggets.
Don't call you before 9 a.m.?
No, we'll be fine. We just want to be able to watch the Nuggets lift their first trophy together.
That's awesome.
And I think tonight is the night it happens. If it doesn't happen by 8.5 points, okay, you can have your steak and a beer. I'll have the title.
I just need to get even with you.
I'll have the title. I'll take Nuggets.
While you're feeling generous, can I get 10? No.
Get out of here. Get out of here. I'll go to 9. If we're 8.5, I'll go to 9 for you.
Fine, I'll take the 9. I'll take all the points I can get. Jimmy is going to make you wait. Jimmy is going to make you wait.
We'll see.
All right. Talk to you tomorrow at 4 with Hail Varsity. Thanks for tuning in.